You're still watching Africa Today. Zambia's Luangwa Community Forest Project has won Best Individual Offsetting Project in the 2023 Voluntary Carbon Market Rankings. It's the largest project aimed at reducing emissions for deforestation and forest degradation in Africa, comprising over 1 million hectares. Here's my conversation with its coordinator, Kawanu Solomon Kazadi. Solomon, congratulations on this incredible award and this great achievement. Talk to us about the Luangwa Community Forest Project.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hugo. We are really ecstatic and very excited to have actually won this award once again. Really, the LCFP has been awarded the best individual offsetting project in the world under the 2023 Environmental Finance Awards for the second time in 3 years and for the third consecutive year in a row. BCP's Impact Monitoring Report has won the best monitoring report, which directly speaks to the impacts and benefits of the project deliverables. Talking about LCFP, Hugo, LCFP is under what we call Biocarbon Partners, that is the company. So LCFP stands for Luangwa Community Forest Project. So LCFP, as abbreviated, is the largest REDD+ project in Africa by hectares, and the largest in the world by quantifiable social impacts. It comprises over 1 million hectares of forest land, which it protects. Yes, so the project partners with 17 chiefdoms. So these are in the eastern part of Zambia, where we have these 17 chiefdoms.
So is this 1 million hectares all in a single space, so to speak? Are these chiefdoms in one area?
Yes, across the 17 chiefdoms. So these are interconnected, Hugo. So they create a buffer, really, or rather a corridor, as it were, for wildlife to freely pass and actually move from one area to the other. Also interesting to mention, obviously, that as you may be aware, in Zambia we have got 20 national parks. So we are privileged to actually be working around and in and around 5 national parks in that regard. So what buffers the national parks is the game management areas. So the 17 chiefdoms actually buffer these national parks, and for us this is very, very exciting. So the 1 million hectares plus, which is actually 1.2 million hectares, is these are communal lands because we've got agreements with our communities. So we go into agreements with communities and sign performance-based agreements for protecting of the wildlife as well as the habitats. So through that, then we are able now to actually go into carbon financing in that regard, Hugo.
So one of the things that excites me is that you've impacted as many as 220,000 people. Walk us through that journey. What's it been like for these individuals? Because their income, I think from, if I recall, has increased, I think, 2.5 times in a very short space of time.
Oh yes, this is really exciting for us, Hugo, because if you look at the income movements now, we have, to be exact, 220% increase in household incomes. So this is awesome for us. But interestingly, obviously, to note that the journey hasn't been easy, Hugo. And I think I would be very quick to mention that BCP is a pioneer of REDD+ in Africa. And way back in 2012, we started off with another project, which we were calling Luangwa Lower Zambezi REDD+ project. So it wasn't as big as the LCFP. But after seeing the success of this project, we then ventured into this other project, which we're calling Luangwa Community Forest Project. So with the benefits that we're actually getting from REDD+, or rather conservation, it's been enormous, and the journey has been very, very good, because then the benefits that are accrued to the communities, like you earlier alluded on, we have direct beneficiaries of over 200,000, which for us gives us great pride. And obviously, when I even started earlier on, I indicated not only were we voted the best project developer, but also our impact report was the best. So this clearly demonstrates then that we were able to clearly show the impacts that are actually accrued to the communities because of these REDD+ projects.
Well, Solomon, you indicated that the journey has not been an easy one, that there have been key learnings that you've picked up over time. Now, walk us through those, because it's pretty clear from the fact that you've won this award twice in 3 years that you've mastered or you've learned from those mistakes or those challenges previously.
Yes, so as you may be aware, I think REDD in the recent years, I think has been a new thing in Africa and world over. So I think there was first skepticism from the communities when we first initiated that we actually want to have these areas protected. And obviously what drove us for us, I think, is the threat to the wildlife as well as the forest itself, the habitats, because we're losing enormous forests. Over 10 million hectares of forest land is lost every year in Africa. So it was an enormous journey for us. So just going into those agreements and engagements with the communities, they were very skeptical at the beginning. But after seeing the impacts that are actually coming in, I think it's really awesome and interesting. So now where we are now, we're talking about a situation where they were skeptical, as well as I think some of the institutional capacities were not there. Policies and frameworks to be able to guide REDD+ were not fully operational. But with the coming in of Luangwa Community Forest Project, it's been able to even guide government to actually have instruments and legislature looking at carbon credits and REDD+ in general. So this is really awesome. So it's been a journey for us, I would say, Hugo, and we're very glad to actually win this, because it then shows that our efforts are actually yielding results, and REDD+ really is working, and there's immense benefits both in communities as well as in biodiversity. This is really great for us.
So when we talk about household income increasing 220%, just put into perspective the life of the typical individual that has been impacted prior to where you are now. Just so we have a clear understanding of some of these beneficiaries.
Oh, yes. So you will notice, obviously, I think we had started LCFP around 2016. Again, the momentum, I think, in the years that preceded. And before that, I think there were unsustainable practices, for example, unsustainable agricultural practices. And through these, you'd find, for example, a typical local person would not make or have a lot of bags from their yields as they were farming. But to put it into context now, because of some of the interventions through the project, through, for example, climate smart technologies, the same farmer is able to produce more on a small piece of land. Just to put it into context, say 1 lima before, because you may be aware, I think maize is a staple food here in Zambia, or Shima rather, yeah. So under 1 lima, you find that before they would get 15, 18 bags of maize using unconventional methods. But now they are able to get in between an average of 35 to 45 bags of maize on the same lima using climate smart technologies that we've been able to introduce. So with this, then it means that these households not only have enough for themselves to be food secure, but they have enough as well to be able to sell, so that they can be able to support and do other things at home. So this, in the context, is enormous. Other than that, obviously, and through forest carbon fees. So these are the fees that actually come from, that we accrue from protecting the forest. So through this, we have communities that have actually been able to benefit through different livelihood projects. And from there, they are able to actually put food on the table and also sell the excess. So this has really shown astronomically the increase in household incomes in the past 3 or 4 years.
Well, a big thing, I think one of the major things that you do is you address climate change in the work that you do. Talk to us about that.
Yes, so obviously I think to start with, obviously, even before I talk about that, is looking at what drove us to actually do REDD+ and to start Luangwa Community Forest Project. When we look at from the forest, or habitats. We've been losing over 10 million hectares annually, like I had indicated earlier on, as well as because the habitats, the forest, this is the homestay for wildlife, as it were. So because of that and our protection of these REDD+ zones, we've seen that we've created interconnectivity from one area to the other. Obviously, we are, as I indicated, buffering or covering 5 national parks in the country. So through this and through REDD+, we are able to see that there is protection of forests, and through that also there's protection of habitats, because wildlife is able to freely move from one area to the other. So this for us has been enormous. When I actually mentioned earlier on, and even when we went into REDD, I think the perception out there was that community members are not able to manage these processes, and largely so because they do not have the financial muscle to be able to actually run these processes. But through the projects, we've been able to actually build capacity, and through forest carbon fees, the communities have been able to have revenues which they use to protect these forest areas, as it were, on their own. So for us, this is actually a very enormous. So Hugo, just to put it into context, I think in terms of the impact, the positive impact that we've had from inception, we've been able to actually capture over 10 million CO2s, which is the net estimated emission reduction in the project area since inception. So 10 million is huge. And then when we look at in terms of the actual hectareage, in terms of forest, we then say before or after, or if the project was not there, because we are protecting over 1.2 million, we are saying that because we are protecting this habitat of 1.2 million, we have a total of 47,000 hectares of forest, which has been actually measured against to say would have lost. So we've actually saved 47,000 hectares of forest because of the project.